Why do you think I came all this way?
Most people watched Tyrion stand in chains at the Dragonpit and saw a man in a hole he couldn't climb out of, a traitor brought up from a cell, a dwarf with a noose more or less around his neck. A condemned prisoner offered one last chance to say something before the Unsullied dragged him back to die. Some called the nomination of Bran the worst political moment in the entire series. Some said Tyrion's mind had been clouded for 2 seasons. Some said it was the writers throwing a dart at a wall and praying nobody would notice. None of that is what happened. Tyrion didn't stumble into his choice of king. As he stood bound in front of the most powerful men and women in Westeros, he read the room and turned weakness into leverage. A man in chains. A pause before he speaks. A king who, by his own admission, doesn't want anything anymore. Look at those 3 things together, and the so-called desperate gamble in that ruined arena becomes something else entirely. Let me take you through it. Because once you see what Tyrion was doing in that scene, you won't watch the finale the same way again. The player and the prize. To understand the play, you have to understand the player. From the first time we meet him, Tyrion Lannister has been sized up by the world and dismissed. A dwarf in a kingdom that measures men in inches of height and pounds of armor. The second son of the most powerful house in Westeros, and a man whose own father wishes he'd drowned at birth. He survives by watching, reading, and outthinking the people who never bother to read him back. That isn't a tragic backstory. It's a training program. By the time we meet him in the pilot, Tyrion has already spent his whole life learning the one skill the rest of his family lacks: how to be underestimated and how to weaponize it. And the position he keeps drifting back to, no matter where the story sends him, is always the same: hand of the king, hand of the queen, advisor, the man who whispers the words, then sees them spoken by the louder voice. In Westerosi tradition, the hand isn't the figure who wears the crown. He's the figure who governs while the crown sits there gleaming, mesmerizing the small folk. The history of the realm is full of hands who ran the kingdom while a child or a weakling or a madman sat the Iron Throne. Otto Hightower under Viserys, Tywin Lannister under Aerys. The pattern is older than Robert's Rebellion or the War of the 5 Kings. The strongest player in any reign is rarely the king, but instead it's the man holding the king's diary. Tyrion knows this. He studied the men who ran the realm without ever sitting on the throne. The position he keeps gravitating toward across 8 seasons isn't a fallback or a consolation prize. It is the thing he wanted all along. Most people heard the Dragonpit speech as a desperate play by a doomed prisoner. What actually happened was a hand selecting his king. And the choice gets cleaner the closer you look at it. Bran Stark isn't a man anymore. He's a vessel, the 3-eyed raven, a living archive of everything Westeros has done and forgotten. He tells anyone who listens that he doesn't want power or titles. He doesn't even want to be called Lord of Winterfell. He says outright that he mostly lives in the past, and a man who lives in the past has no interest in the levers of the present. That is exactly the kind of monarch every would-be hand has dreamed about for centuries. Tyrion looked at that boy and saw the throne he'd been working towards his entire life. Walk back through the saga, and it all starts to come into focus. Tyrion has been quietly placing himself next to this particular Stark since Season 1. The first time we see them in the same room, Bran has just been thrown from a tower by Jaime, paralyzed from the waist down, and Tyrion arrives at Winterfell with a gift. Not a sword, not a sack of gold, a saddle design. A blueprint that will let a boy who can't walk ride a horse anyway. Robb asks why he wants to help Bran. Tyrion replies that he has a tender spot in his heart for
cripples, bastards, and broken things.
Most people heard a kind line from a kind dwarf. What actually happened was Tyrion publicly naming his political constituency. Cripples, bastards, broken things. The people Westeros throws away. His own kind. The people who, if anyone ever gathered them under one banner, would outnumber the lords and ladies sneering at them from above. The line is a thesis statement, delivered 4 episodes into the series, and the boy it refers to, broken, cast aside, soon to be much more than he appears, is Bran, connecting them from the very start. The Blackwater lesson. By Season 2, Tyrion has been handed the realm's most thankless job. Hand to King Joffrey, a madman in a boy's body, surrounded by Lannister courtiers and a sister who wants Tyrion dead. He should have lost King's Landing to Stannis Baratheon at Blackwater Bay. Instead, he packs the bay with wildfire, sets it alight under Stannis' fleet, and saves the city in a single night. And here's what happens after the most brilliant military improvisation of the show. His family strips him of his title, Tywin reclaims the pin, and Cersei sneers at his face. Most people saw this as the moment Tyrion's bid for power was crushed. What actually happened was Tyrion learning the most important lesson of his life. In Westeros, the man who wins the battle does not win the throne. The man who controls the story does. From Blackwater on, Tyrion stops treating armies as the prize. Perception becomes the only thing that matters. Control of the story. The Dragonpit isn't the first time Tyrion has been bound in chains. Season 1, Episode 6. Tyrion is at the Eyrie, accused of Bran's attempted murder and condemned in advance. He walks free, not by pleading innocence, he barely even tries that, but by reading the room, choosing his moment, and demanding trial by combat. Most viewers remember the moment as Bronn winning a fight. What actually happened was Tyrion realizing, before anyone else did, that in Westeros, a clever man in chains can write his own escape if he picks the right line at the right moment. It's a lesson that saves him again in Season 4, The Purple Wedding. Accused of poisoning Joffrey, sat in front of his father in chains, the same posture, the same bonds, the same lords assembled in a half circle. Tyrion finally speaks his truth.
I'm guilty of a far more monstrous crime. I'm guilty of being a dwarf.
And he's been on trial his entire life. This was Tyrion seizing control of the only narrative he could still shape. He can't win the trial, so he wins the story. Essos and the long recalibration. From there he flees to Essos, lands on Daenerys' small council, and becomes the most powerful advisor in the world. And here is where most people stop watching carefully. The standard read on Tyrion's Season 7 is that he had lost his edge. Tywin would have spotted Jaime's flanking move on the Tyrells. Tyrion didn't. He sent the Unsullied to take Casterly Rock, and Jaime had already emptied it. They walked into a hollow castle, while the Lannister host quietly marched on Highgarden, sacked it, killed Olenna, and carried the Tyrell gold home. Tyrion lost his strongest ally in a move he should have spotted 3 steps earlier. That's the surface read, and for one season, the show lets you sit with it. But watch the rest of Season 7 again. Tyrion is the one who proposes the White Hunt. Capture a single dead man from beyond the wall, carry it south, drop it at Cersei's feet, force the realm to see what's actually coming. This is Tyrion reclaiming the story again. Then comes the first Dragonpit summit. Watch where Tyrion stands in that scene, not next to Daenerys, but between Daenerys and Cersei. He is operating as a power broker between thrones, not as a courtier loyal to one of them. He is the hand who serves the realm, not the monarch. By the end of Season 7, he isn't trying to win Daenerys' war, he's trying to survive it. The Godswood at Winterfell, Season 8, Episode 2. The dead are a day away. The War Council has just broken up, and the room has agreed to a plan that will use Bran as bait. Wheel him into the Godswood, let the Night King come for him, kill the Night King when he does. Everyone files out. Tyrion lingers. He pulls up a chair next to Bran and asks to hear his story. The camera cuts away before Bran answers. We don't hear what passes between them, but the next time we see Tyrion that night, something has shifted. He's drinking by the fire with Jaime and Brienne, and he tells them he thinks they might live. The others laugh. He stresses the point. He does. He has seen something in Bran, something no one else could. And once you start watching for it, the picture Bran has been painting all season fills itself in. He tells Sansa he isn't really Brandon Stark anymore. He tells Jaime in this same Godswood that he's something else now, and that he isn't angry at anyone. By the time he reaches the Dragonpit, he will tell a room full of lords that he will never be lord of anything. Most people watched those scenes and heard a strange boy saying cryptic things, but instead, Tyrion heard his future king, a monarch with no ambition, a monarch with no heirs, a monarch who would rather sit by a tree than sit on a throne. To anyone else in Westeros, that's a useless prince. To a man who has spent 30 years learning to govern from behind the crown, that's the answer to every problem he's ever had. By the time Daenerys burns King's Landing 3 episodes later, Tyrion has already made his decision. He frees Jaime to slip out of the city before the burning starts. He confronts Daenerys, throws his hand's pin in the dirt, and walks himself into a cell. Jon Snow hasn't killed Daenerys yet, but Tyrion has already started writing the story of what happens after. The Dragonpit isn't the moment he improvises, it's the moment he delivers. Look at the scene again, knowing what you know now. Tyrion is brought up from a cell, in chains, by Grey Worm. The lords and ladies of Westeros sit in a half-circle in the ruined Dragonpit, the throne melted, the mother of dragons dead, no leader, no purpose. Edmure Tully stands up first. He clears his throat and starts on a speech about his qualifications. A senior lord, a veteran of 2 wars, some small skill in statecraft.
I suppose this is the most important moment of our lives. What we decide today will reverberate through the annals of history.
It is the old aristocratic instinct: bloodline, battle record, seniority, entitlement. Sansa cuts him down with one line, telling her uncle to sit. Edmure sits back down, and we see the old way dying in real time. Samwell Tarly stands next and floats something more radical: that the people of Westeros, all of them, choose their own rulers. The lords laugh harder, and democracy dies before it gets a second sentence. Now watch what Tyrion does. He has been silent through all of it, in chains, listening, watching the room reject every conventional answer. He waits until the floor is empty, until both the old way and the new way have failed, until everyone in that arena has shown him exactly what they will and won't accept. Then he speaks.
What unites people? Armies? Gold? Stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
Most people heard a prisoner stalling for time. What actually happened was a hand of the king taking the floor and choosing his monarch. Tyrion doesn't ask the lords whether they would like a king, but he tells them what kind of king they are getting and why. He selects a vessel: Bran, the 3-eyed raven, the man who lives in the past and doesn't care about power, and he offers him the crown. And Bran, who has known for a long time exactly where this council was going, gives the answer that confirms the whole thesis.
Why do you think I came all this way?
The 3-eyed raven already knew the game Tyrion was playing, and he was willing to play along. Watch the final scene of the series back, and it all becomes clear. Tyrion sits at the head of the small council. Bran is looking for Drogon. The master of coin is Bronn, a man Tyrion bought. Davos sits as master of ships. Brienne writes the history of the realm into the White Book. The king was absent. Most people watched that scene and saw a quiet epilogue. What actually happened was Tyrion's reign beginning. He didn't survive Game of Thrones. He won it. In chains, with a single speech to a group of people who thought he was a dead man walking, Tyrion broke the wheel, not with dragonfire or prophecy, but with a sentence. By choosing a king who didn't want to be king, who couldn't father heirs, who would have to be chosen and re-chosen by the lords of Westeros for the rest of time, he ended the system Daenerys couldn't. You already see the Dragonpit scene differently than you did when you clicked on this video. You can't watch Tyrion in those chains again without seeing a man with the whole realm in his hands. What do you think Tyrion's real masterstroke was? The speech at his trial in Season 4? The silence in chains at the Dragonpit? Or was it something else entirely? Let us know in the comments, and for more threads like this one, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be showing you all the moves no one noticed, the secrets behind the story of Westeros.